What up, Pip Squeaks? Today we're gonna do a deck profile of Ultimate Garga. So I haven't done these in a while, so hope hope this all goes well. All right. So as your buddy, you're gonna play this Ultimate Garga. It's pretty weak, so I don't think you should really play it at all. But we're gonna play it just because it looks nice. So all right, we're gonna get onto the deck. We're gonna be playing one copy of the G Boost of like every G Boost version out there. If you want, you can play more than one, but I totally don't recommend it. So we're just gonna be playing just one copy of each G Boost based. So yeah. The next up, you're gonna play three copies of your favorite card, Ultimate Garga. So this is of course your main card in the deck. So for this Garga, your ability cannot be nullified. Then you can act, G Boost EX. You can activate all your G Boost modes in the drop zone. But I'll get on to soon how you can get all your G Boost modes in the drop. So yeah, and activate all that. It gains, if you have all your G Boost in the drop, it gains a lot of like the different powers, like power plus 1,000,000, critical plus 2, penetrate, triple attack, gain 1, and burn your opponent for 1 effect damage. So yeah, you should play 3 copies of Ultimate Garga in your deck. Then next up, we should play 2 copies of Awakened DD Dragon Tron Gadra. This is your searcher for your G Boost, and then if a monster with a G Boost EX, aka your Ultimate Garga, is on your field, you can charge 1, gain 1, and draw 1. And this ability only activates once per turn. And once you're done with this card, you can put this into a soul of a G Boost on your field. In that case, your Ultimate Garga. And the next, we play 3 copies of Dio Gardra. Your Dio Gardra is your searcher for your G Boost wheel, aka your slash wyvern, aka, and your Ultimate Garga, because Ultimate Garga is treated as all G Boost, craft, will, and base. So you can search up an Ultimate Garga with this too. And when you gain life, and if a G Boost is on your field, you can drop 2 of your opponent's gauge, and this ability only activates once per turn. So for example, if you have your Dio Gardra on your field, you gain life, you drop 2 of your opponent's gauge, and you can cast a spell that would recall another Dio Gardra from your drop or your hand. You can, if you happen to gain life again, you could drop 2 more of your opponent's gauge. So yeah, it's a pretty strong card. I don't think you should play even one of it, honestly. Just kidding. Next up, we play 1 copy of Edgar Gadra. So you may drop a hand card and you can search up a DD Gargantua Dragon or a DD Dragon Trap. But for this case, we don't search up for the DD Gargantua Dragon. We search up for the item which is called Twin Beam Sword, your Resilient Sword. But we'll get to that. We'll get to this card in a bit. So yeah, when a dragon on your field attacks alone, it attacks your opponent and all their monsters instead. So this is basically your Omni Whacker. So yeah. Your Ultimate Garga could whack your opponents and all their monsters instead. So we only play 1 copy of it. Next up, we play 2 copies of Garcat. So your Garcat is basically a so-called a filter. So when it's counted to the field, if you have a DD Dragon Tribe on your field, you just charge 1, draw 1. It's a pretty basic and simple card. It's not once per turn. You could keep spamming it. So yeah. Next up, we got 2 copies of Wicked DD Dragon Wild Gardra. This is the Wild Gardra build. There is another build of Ultimate Garga where you could play Grace and Body Block, but for this deck profile, we'll be playing Wild Gardra. So for Wild Gardra, it's basically your redirector, and there's a card in this deck, Dragonic Force Field, which means both left and right cannot be destroyed, and this would be on your left and the right, redirecting the attack to this card. So your Wild Gardra cannot be destroyed by attacks, and by opponent's card effects. So it's basically a whole like a protection for your whole entire turn. So yeah, it's a really strong card too. You should play 2 of it. Next, we just play 1 copy of Awakened DD Dragon Arte Gardra. So this is basically your cannot counter for this deck. So when you're for Ultimate Garga, basically it gives it gives every card on your field the triple attack or the boost that comes from the G Boost cards from the 3 G Boost cards. So it gives this thing technically triple attack, gain 1, burn 1, penetrate, and yeah, and all the other stuff. Then this card cannot be countered when this card is attacking alone, and when this card is standby card effects, aka when it stands via triple attack, you can gain 1 and draw a card. So this is a gain 3 and a draw 3 on its own without the powers of the other G boosts, and this is a cannot counter. So you could possibly hit your opponent for crit triple attack cannot counter. So yeah, it's a really good card. You should play 1 of them. Next, moving on to the spells, we should play 3 copies of Rivals Forever. This is your searcher for your G boost or any monsters in general, and this is to pump all originally sized 3 monsters a power plus 10k and a critical plus 1. And it's a draw 1 from the top, so you're basically replenishing your hand without burning a hand card. So this is usually you would use this card to search out your either one of your 3 modes, and 1 Wilt Gardra, because there really is no other way to search out your Wilt Gardra rather than playing Rivals. So I would really recommend you to search up a Wilt Gardra if there isn't already one in your hand or your drop or the gauge. So yeah, I would really recommend you to take the Wilt Gardra rather than just taking 2 modes, because you can get another mode by using a Garzillion's effect. So you may pay 1 gauge and you can search up a Gargantua from your deck and put it into the drop zone, and you may put the chosen card on top of your deck. Then yeah, it's basically a guaranteed searcher for your for one of your 3 modes. So you could just use this ability to put up 2 monsters, just put up to 1 G boost mode and a Wilt Gardra. So yeah, we play 3 copies of Rivals. Next, we play 3 copies of G boost over. This is your filter card. So yeah, you may look at the top 3 cards of your deck. You put 2 amount to your hand and charge the rest of your gauge. Pretty simple card, and it's once per turn. And you may only cast this card when you have a G boost on your field. So we play 3 of it. Next, we play 2 copies of Garga Grants. This is basically your another filter for the deck, or counter call, however you want to use it. So this is a look at top 4, put 2 amount to your hand and put the rest into your gauge. It's basically a better version of the G boost over, because since it's also a counter and it's a top 4, but you may only use this card when you use a G boost wheel on your field, aka when you've used the ultimate Garga G boost EX, which means you've used all G boost base, craft, and will. So you could use this card immediately, or you may use this during the attack phase to counter call a DD Dragon Tribe from your monster from your hand by paying its call cost. You may use this card once per turn. So we play 2 copies of Garga Grants. Next, we play 2 copies of Dear Friend. This is basically your draw spell or your damage reduction spell. You may drop a drag out from your hand, and if you do choose one of the following 2, you draw 2, and you have 3 or more drag out in your drop zone, draw a card, which means if you have your 3 different G boost modes in your drop zone, you can draw an additional card, and that essentially makes it a draw 3 spell. Or for this turn, the damage you take is reduced by 3, just in case if there's any trouble incoming your way. So yeah. Next up, we play 1 copy of Garga Burst. This is basically your charge and draw spell, and a counter call essentially at the same time. You may only use this card if G boost based, and pay to life, counter, charge 2, draw 2, and you may call a DD Giant Tribe monster from your hand by paying its call cost. So yeah, it's a one-off card. You could possibly play more, but I recommend only playing 1. Next up, is an optional card. Sorry. This is a really optional card, so you can play a Perfected Dragon. This is your Garga Searcher, aka your searcher out for your Garga Burst and your Garga Grants. So yeah, you pay 1 life, a pretty simple card, just pay 1 life, put up to 1 spell of a Garga from your deck into your hand and shuffle your deck. And you may only use this card if with a G boost EX is on your field, aka your ultimate Garga. Next up, this is also a optional card. It's a Gargantua Side Combat DD Hall. This is your anti-rest set spell. So all DD Giant Tribe on your field cannot be rested by your opponent's card's effect. And if you have a DD Giant Tribe item in your field, you may put this card into your job zone in the next. And if you do for this turn, the next damage you take is reduced by 3. But I am only playing this card just for the anti-rest, so that your opponent cannot rest ultimate Garga. But however, there is another generic spell in here in this game that allows you to not rest opponent's card. It's called Sweet Happy Time, but I rather recommend you to play it rather than this card, because it doesn't give your opponent the timing to spell now your Sweet Happy Time just in case for any sort of situation. So I only play one copy of Combat DD Hall. Next, we play 3 copies of Gargamon. Gargamon is basically your counter call from your drop zone. Charge 1 and call up to one size 1 or less DD Giant Tribe from your drop zone by paying this call cost, which in turn allows you to call either your Wilt Gardra or any monsters in general, like Diogardra, Aegregardra, Diogardra, Garcat, and your Tron Gardra for an additional attack. This spell could also be used defensively into calling out your Wilt Gardra as defense to set up for your as your defense. So yeah, it's a really good card. You should play 3 copies of it. Yeah. Next up, we play your highly defensive spell, a once per game spell actually, Fighter's High, and this is basically it's similar to Asterism Effect and Starjet Revival. However, it's mostly different because for Fighter's High is you may only cast this card if there's 3 or more different dragouts in your drop, aka the the 3 different G boost modes. Drop a hand card 2 gauge, and for this turn, all the Giant Tribe on your field cannot be destroyed. You cannot take damage, and return all cards from your drop zone and shuffle your deck. You may only cast Fighter's High once per fight. So this is basically your your guaranteed survive and a deck reset for this deck. So we played 2 copies of it. Next, we play 2 copies of Gar Oracle. This is your basic draw spell. If you have a DD Giant Tribe in your field, pay 1 gauge, draw 2, and then if you have Dragot, gain 2 life. In combo together with Diogardra to drop your opponent's gauge by 2. Play 2 copies of Gar Oracle. Next, we come to Future Card Buddyfight. There's a reprint of this in the 10th anniversary set. So yeah, it's a pretty easy card to get your hands on right now. It's you may use this card with off flag. This is basically your buddy searcher, or your searcher for your impact DD Gargantua Crusher. So yeah, for the searcher for your buddy is you may put this card into your buddy zone. You charge 2 gauge and you search out your ultimate Garga and put it into your hand, and you may put this in your buddy zone, and for this turn a buddy on the field gets critical +2 at the start of your attack phase, or you can use this card if you or your opponent is 5 life or less. You may put an impact from your deck into your hand and shuffle your deck as a counter, like cast FCBF, then you can search up a DD Gargantua Crusher to guarantee finish of your opponent. So yeah, we play 2 copies of Future Card Buddyfight. Next, we come to the spell, Dragonic Force Field. So this is your field protection in combo with your Wilt Gardra. So your Wilt Gardra redirects all attack to Wilt Gardra itself, and this card is pay 2 gauge, and for this turn, all monsters on your left and right cannot be destroyed, in which turn makes you survive for 1 extra turn. So it's a really good card, really basic card as well. So it's a counter, cannot left and right cannot be destroyed. So we play 3 copies of Dragonic Force Field. Next, we play 2 copies of Dragonic Exchange. This is your this is to look at your gauge. You charge 1 gauge, look at all of your gauge, choose one card from among them, put it in your hand, then put a card from your hand into your gauge. Basically a filter for your hand and gauge. So we play 2 copies of Dragonic Force Field. Moving on to the 10th anniversary spells, we play 2 copies of Dragot Shine. Dragot Shine is your item searcher or your Dragon World monster searchers. So pay 1 life, just either put a item from your deck into your hand in search for your Garzillion, or put up to 2 different Dragon or drag out monsters with different card name into your drop into your hand, and if you put 1 or more DD Dragon Tribe, you charge 2 gauge. So it's essentially a loop for your Garcat or your Tron Gardra or whatnot going on. So yeah, we play 2 copies of Dragon Shine VS. Now we play 2 copies of Green Dragon Shield VS. This is basically your anti-FTK spell. So this card cannot be nullified, and then for this turn, the next damage it becomes 0, and the next damage you take from opponent's card's effect it becomes 0. So it prevents you from physical attacks once and from effect damage once. Or you can use this as draw a card, and then you charge 1 for each, and you charge 1 for each card on your field, and you gain 1 for each card on your field. So it's essentially for Ulti Garga itself, it's a charge 1. Wait, no, it's a draw 1, charge 3, and gain 3 for each card on the field, aka your Ultimate Garga, Garzillion, and a Sign Monster to pair up. So yeah, it's a really good card. You should play 2. But I've got other people saying that you should, instead of playing 2 Green Dragon Shield VS, you should play 1 Green Dragon Shield and 1 Greater Descent DD, aka your anti-removal spell for either monsters or for any card on the field, or you cannot take effect damage for this turn. So you could go 1 Grace, 1 Green Dragon Shield, or you could just go 2 Green Dragon Shield VS, depending on your own preferences. Next, we play the 2 Twin Beam Sword Garzillion. This is your main item for the deck. You pay 1 gauge and pay 1 life. Size 2 or greater dragouts, and if there's a size 2 or greater dragout, aka your Ulti Garga, all DD Dragon Tribe on your field cannot be destroyed, leave the field, and it cannot be nullified by opponent's card's effects, aka if you don't have this item, you're basically screwed. So you may pay 1 gauge and you may choose up to 1 Gargantua and its card name from your deck into your job and put into a job zone, shuffle your deck, then you may put the chosen card on the top of your deck. You may only use this ability once per turn. So yeah, this is your main item, you play 2 of it. And coming on to the final 2 cards, we play 2 copies of DD Gargantua Crusher. This is your impact for the deck. So you may only cast this card if your opponent's life is 5 life or less, no monsters are in each player's center, and if you used G-Boost on this turn, aka if you have used G-Boost or any sort of G-Boost EX during this turn. 1 gauge, deal 5 damage to your opponent. This card cannot be nullified and this damage cannot be reduced. A very basic impact for Ultimate Garga. So yeah, that concludes the deck profile of my Ultimate Garga deck. I would be putting a photo up of like the whole deck list up here somewhere around this frame of the video. So if you want to copy it 1-to-1 ratio, that is completely up to you. So yeah, and goodbye.